if you relate to these things, it could be that you're on the autism spectrum. Have you ever been like deeply focused on something like a project, or maybe you're writing a book, or you're just any type of task that's taking up all of your time, and then you get suddenly interrupted by something and it just completely is disproportionately distressing for you? Like, how do I even get back to this? How do I even go back to doing the thing I was doing? And this is because autistic individuals do find changing or switching of tasks randomly outside of their scope of what they've planned out very uncomfortable, because being autistic ourselves, we like to have things that are predictable and routine. Like, I know I'm going to be doing this thing for the next X amount of time. Now, to change that around is very difficult and could be extremely distressing and upsetting. So being annoyed by interruptions isn't inherently autistic, right? But it's the disproportionate difficulty in the shift of transitioning between doing one task to then being agitated to think about something completely different in another way. And of course, if you're experiencing this type of thing, it could be related to an autism spectrum condition. Okay, do you ever like notice when things are not in the right place? Like, everything has its own little piece of the universe, right? Like, you know that the cup goes back here, those glasses go there, the towels get folded and put away here, but everything has a place. And you notice this, and you notice if small things are out of place. And this can be something like, for me, my partner will come in and maybe put her sunglasses down, but we know that there's a sunglasses rack where they belong. So I would always be like, oh my goodness, I need to go and put those sunglasses back on the rack because that's where they've been. Or like if there was a towel out of place in the kitchen or something, I'd be like really not irritated, but it would nag at me to be like, this has a place. This has an organizational structure. It needs to go back there in its own place. And this is a criteria that they use in diagnostic for autism, like the insistence on sameness and inflexibility, which basically just means that you have a difficulty with going against what you've set out as the thing for that thing. You know, the towels go in this bucket. Now, if they go into a different bucket, that inability to be flexible with which bucket they go into can deeply impact you, because it's a routine, it's a repetitive or a predictable outcome, which causes a calmness in autistic people. So knowing that everything has a drawer or a certain type of thing is definitely on the autism spectrum scale, something that is really down there with autism. So if you find yourself doing this, again, it could be because you're autistic. Now, if I just called you out, you have to comment down below being like, Dan, that's me. Everything has its little home and it has to go back. You knows it. This one is really interesting. This is that you can love the same food, but a small change in its texture, temperature, presentation, or even situation can completely put you off. And I have this with like cheese, for instance. I can really enjoy cheese that is melted. If it's melted on pizza or pasta or a lasagna or something, I can eat it, but I cannot eat cheese if it's cold. I cannot eat cheese if it's in its solid format, because the texture is odd. This texture, this inability for situational sensory textures is very common in autistic individuals, because there's an insistence on sameness or a likeness for the same thing, and food becomes a comfort and a way of being distressed if it's differently prepared or it's outside of the norm. And it's kind of like my partner likes to have different types of things like cheese and onions and stuff, and I can't have those foods because I have sensory aversions to onions, and I have a sensory aversion to cheese that is not melted or is not cooked, right? And that's really interesting. I find this probably the most fascinating part of it. And it comes with a comorbid condition called sensory processing disorder that comes along with autism spectrum disorder. And having sensory processing issues is kind of one of the main criteria when they're diagnosing autism in the DSM, which is like the diagnostic manual for this type of stuff. And it is really interesting. Even situational based food is just like up there as one of the most interesting things. Like, you can eat a certain food in a certain way or in a certain place, but only in that place and in that way. Everything else becomes something that you would have to reject or not even want. By the way, guys, my name is Dan and I have autism and ADHD. So if you're new around here and you want to learn more and come along this journey with me, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Follow along on Facebook, TikTok, and Instagram if you're watching on those platforms. Okay, so the next one is hyperreactivity to sensory input. And sensory input is smell, sound, touch, temperature, lighting, things like that. But autistic individuals will have a higher input value of certain things. So you may like be distracted by an unexpected noise that could be small, but is really irritating, and only you find this irritating. Like, the people in your household may not find it irritating. For instance, like I was trying to sleep and I'm chilling out, right? And I'm sitting there chilling and I'm trying to sleep or have just a nap, and then this incessant noise from my neighbor's garden was going, this horrible noise. And I was like, what the heck is this? And I kept looking and looking. I didn't know what it was. And then nobody else was kind of bothered by it, right? And I'm like freaking out. This noise is completely destroying me. Anyway, it turns out it was a toy upturned in some puddle water in next door's garden. And I was just like, this is crazy. This noise is so in my brain, I couldn't relax. Okay, this next one is really interesting. It's more to do with social conventions, and it's where people think that you're being sarcastic, or they don't really understand if you're being sincere, or if you're not understanding, or if you're being kind of negative, because of the way that you communicate isn't always correct. And I'll give you an example of this. My friend was really excited about this new business he'd started, and he'd put this van together, and he put stickers all over the van, and he'd got it all ready. And he texted me saying, hey, dude, the van's ready. Super awesome. Let's go. And I was like, oh, shocked face, because I was like, wow, that's like so cool. Like, I can't believe he's done it. But instead he was like, dude, are you okay? I thought you'd be really excited or happy. I don't really understand what's going on. So then I had to explain, no, this face is like a, oh, wow, shocked face, because I'm happy for you. That's like, wow, like, you know, a wow face. But I have no idea, because for me, the communication input was different. It was like, I'm trying to relay something. He picked it up a different way, and it didn't really match up. Now, this is all down to communication, and it can be a difficult one to get through. Now, if you are interested, I have a free Autism Life Hacks PDF, a personalized book for you. You just have to go to www.autismhacks.net, type in your details and what really bothers you, and it makes a personal PDF download just for you of hacks that can help you in your life. Autism is a communication difficulty, and those social constructs of what you should or shouldn't do sometimes are missed because of those times where we should have been learning those things. We were actually just learning to survive in the world rather than learning how to socialize with people, because socializing is difficult. Okay, this next one is really interesting, and you may have heard this a lot. Now, if you hear this a lot, you have to give this video a thumbs up and let me know. Dan, this is me. People think you're being overly dramatic, or being dramatic for no reason, when they think, well, this is just a small thing. This is just a tiny piece of life that wouldn't really upset many people. Like, you know, no point crying over spilled milk, which is some weird idiom that people use. But for me, for instance, autism, for me, it comes with like an emotional attachment to certain things, and those things have a deeper attachment, like object attachment. And one of the main things was that my Tesla car, which is my first Tesla that I ever had, I'd had it for like 5 years, and the lease was up and we had to get rid of it. And I was so emotionally attached to it, and I was so dramatic in a lot of people's terms, looking at it thinking, oh my goodness, like saying goodbye to a friend, almost like a friend was moving away or somebody was dying. That's what it felt like to me, and I was compelled by this. But typically people are like, dude, it's a car lease. You're going to get a different car or a different Tesla or whatever, and it's not that big a deal, stop being dramatic. But to me, it was huge. People think we're being dramatic. People think we're being over the top. And in actual fact, we're not being dramatic. We're not being over the top. What we are is people who are having a different type of communication with the things that are maybe inanimate in our life, or objects, or something that holds a value of a different type of connection, rather than a typical connection with like a human being, or a friend or something like that. So I don't think that those things are you being dramatic. What these things are is you really trying your best to navigate the world and communicate to things, be it communicating with objects or communicating with people.